Hello there, it's Miss Prather, and in today's lesson we are going to work on how to solve literal equations. Now you're asking what's the difference between a normal equation and a literal equation, which I'm actually going to underline here because this is important vocabulary. A literal equation is an equation that has more than one variable. So as we see here, for number 1, we have solve for k. I have to indicate in this case that you need to solve for k because we have two variables, y and k. And as we see for number 2, the formula for volume is V equals LWH. And then in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 variables. Therefore, it's very important that I let you know which one I want you to solve for. And it says solve for W. But before we start to do number 2, let's go back to number 1. Solve for k. So, to solve literal equations is the same as regular equations. But it's very important that in this case you highlight, you circle, you do whatever you need to identify the variable you need to solve for. So you need to solve for k, and that's my instructions. I highlight it. Now I'm going to go to the problem, highlight it as well. Next step for all of those that know, you need to go ahead and draw this line so that way you can separate both sides of the equation. So now I have either 3y minus 4k or 12. We need to figure out which one we want to move. Well, you need to start with whatever's on the side of the k because you want k by itself. You cannot yet separate the negative 4 from the k because you still have this 3y here, this other pair still here. So you have to separate that. Now, I see a positive 3y. And I put the positive sign so you can see it there. So I'm going to do the opposite, which is minus 3y. And if you subtract 3y on one side, you have to subtract it on the other. So therefore, the 3y's are able to cancel out. A positive and a negative cancel. I am left with, do not forget this negative right here. And I'm actually going to bring it down in a different color so that way you can see it and it can stand out for you. And I'm going to bring down the 4k as well, equals. Now here we have 12 minus 3y. A common mistake, and I'm going to put it off to the side, would be to subtract it and you have 9y. This is a no-no. The reason being is because 12 and 3y are not like terms. 12 does not have a y. So therefore you cannot combine them. And so we have our no-no off to the side. And so now knowing that we cannot combine them in such a manner, what we're going to do is we're going to write it how we see it. I'm going to put the 12. I'm going to bring down that minus still, 3y. They are both separate. So now I'm going to go and highlight my variable again because my goal is to get k by itself. I see here negative 4 times k, so I do the inverse of multiplication, which is division. So I'm going to divide by negative 4 on my left hand side and my right hand side. So now I have k because the negative 4 is canceled. Notice how I kept the negative. And I'm just going to leave my answer as is. 12 minus 3y all over negative 4. Now you can also write your answer as k equals, and you can divide 12 and 3 by negative 4. So 12 divided by negative 4 is negative 3. And two negatives divided by one another gives you a positive, and then you can just say 3/4 y. So you can either leave your answer as this first one, or you can push yourself to simplify as the second one. Please note that on your EOC you may see it in either form. So try to push yourself to do the second one as well. Okay, so now we're going to move on to number 2. The formula volume is V equals LWH. Now as I say LWH, notice here that we do not have any signs such as a negative separating LW and H. That is because another way that you can show this is V equals L times W times H. L, W, and H are all connected by multiplication. So now the problem tells us to solve for W. As you guessed it, I'm going to go ahead and highlight my W in my directions and my W within my problem. Next step, which we're becoming very familiar with by now, is to draw the line. So now my goal is to figure out how to get rid of the L and the H. Because again, I want W by itself just as I wanted K by itself. Because I see here that L, W, and H are all connected by multiplication, I need to do the inverse, which is division. So I'm going to divide. I can get rid of the L, and at the same time I can also get rid of the H because they both are using the same operation, which is multiplication. So if I divide my right hand side by L and H, that means I'm going to divide my left hand side by L and H as well. So that leaves me with the two L's cancel, the two H's cancel, W, and I have V all over L and H. Now I cannot change this or simplify this anymore because I do not have any numbers as I did within my first problem. These are all variables, and since I do not know the variables, I cannot change the problem. Thus I will leave my answer as W equals V divided by LH. Please note that W equals V divided by LH is not the same as, there you go, move that up so you can see it. So W equals V divided by LH is not the same as V minus LH equals W. This is not the same as this. The reason being is this is a division sign. And this is a subtraction sign. Because these are two different signs, the way you represent this first one cannot be represented the same way. So do not confuse yourself when going to write your answer. On your EOC, you may be given both answer choices, and you actually may have solved your word correctly. But do not invert your answer from a division to a negative sign. Just a word of caution. Thank you. I hope this tutorial was helpful.